What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Denver Route YouTube channel. I'm your host, Kevin Coleman. I'm here with Christian, and you know what that means. We're doing a this or that, but we're going a little different this one. We're going Dynasty, and we're going to do one of Christian's favorite players. We call him his flag plant player. We're looking at Justin Fields today and Trevor Lawrence. So if you're in a Dynasty startup in a Superflex, these two guys are going next to each other in these drafts. Who would you rather have? Chicago quarterback Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence? Where are you going on your Dynasty team? We're going to tell you right after the intro. So while the intro is going, hit that like and subscribe button, and we'll check you guys on the other side. All right, we're going to get into it. Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence. And hey, got to give a shout out to Christian because he was on Justin Fields earlier than anybody last year talking about how he could be a quarterback one. And hey, look at that. And he was going through bookmarks the other day. He was looking at all the bookmarks he's got. This is what we do here. And then we mute the other conversations. But let's get into the ADP and where it's at. So Justin Fields is going at 107 right now, QB 6. So that's where he's going. The first 5 QBs that go off the board are usually Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow, and then Justin Herbert. That's essentially the first 5. And then you get maybe a wide receiver in there sometimes at 106. Like usually it's Justin Jefferson. And then we get Fields and Lawrence. And then Superflex, if you guys don't know what Superflex is, essentially you start 2 quarterbacks. So it does push the value up for these quarterbacks. And we're seeing literally 13 quarterbacks probably go within the first 15 picks of this. So nailing that first quarterback is very important for your Dynasty team. It's really where you set the tone for the rest of the, really the league, actually. If you're looking at just overall, like, hey, are you going to be successful in that league or not? So let's get into what each guy did last year. We're going to let Christian take it away on Justin Fields, and then I'll talk to you guys about Lawrence.
Yeah, so Justin Fields had a kind of non-traditional, successful quarterback season. 192 completions on 318 attempts, less than 60% completion percentage, just 2,200 yards through the air, 17 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. But where he really made his money was on the ground. So 160 attempts, 1,143 yards, and 8 touchdowns. If you watched the NFL last year, you know that he was one of the most exciting players to watch, but it comes with a caveat because the passing was pretty rough at times. Now, there are a ton of different reasons for that we'll get into in his 2023 outlook and what that depth chart looks like now. But in terms of fantasy, and that's what we're doing here, QB5, 307 fantasy points and 20.5 fantasy points per game. So a very successful fantasy season because of that rushing upside. We'll talk about what that looks like moving forward, though, with the added weapons and things like that. But overall, just a successful fantasy season in 2022.
Yeah, and I think the thing that excites you about Fields is that the upside is still going to be there because he can improve as a passer. Trevor Lawrence, on the other hand, like he did not look good his rookie year, but we can maybe chalk that up to Urban Meyer being there. And then, hey, this last year under Peterson's system, he's looked very good. He saw a big improvement, 4,000 yards, 25 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. On the ground, still had 5 touchdowns rushing. So, like, one nice thing about Lawrence is that he does have some rushing upside. So when you're looking at it from that perspective in the red zone, he could do that. He's not Fields, but he's not like statue back there. So when we look at that from a fantasy perspective, I think that's something to know. Now he did struggle a little bit at the beginning of the year. Like he came out kind of hot. He struggled against Philly. He had a couple games where, against Houston didn't look good, but he really came on strong down the stretch. Week 12 through 16, he was a top 5 quarterback. He finished his quarterback 8. He averaged 18.3 fantasy points per game. And that was attributed to kind of his weekly finish at the beginning of the season. He didn't do too well there. But overall, like, he was a very solid quarterback option. You were excited for him based on you taking him probably 101 in your Superflex draft when he was a rookie in your rookie drafts. But let's get into what we're looking at this season. So Fields, what can we expect from him? Now, Christian's a Bears fan now. So he's a transplanted Bears fan. So he's all about their offseason moves. So what do you got out there for Chicago?
Yeah, so clearly the motive this offseason for general manager Ryan Poles was to get Justin Fields help and give him a fair shot. There are rumblings that they are fully convinced that he is the guy and he is the franchise guy for them moving forward. And so what they did is they improved the offensive line. They went out and they got DJ Moore in the big trade down from the first overall pick. Shout out to the Houston Texans for making that reality. And then they, added some smaller pieces. They added Deontay Foreman to help the running game. They did lose David Montgomery, but then they added Roshan Johnson. So there are things where you're excited about what Fields can do with a little bit of protection and with some capable pass catchers. When you look back at 2022, there was none of that. There were times where, Justin Fields got kind of killed in the media and on Twitter, especially because of things that his wide receivers were doing, that he was doing the things right and it just wasn't coming to fruition. And so when they changed the offense to kind of make it all about Justin Fields, you could tell that that took a toll on him. And so like down the stretch, that really rough game against the Lions, that probably doesn't happen if he isn't running the ball for over 100 yards, 3 weeks prior. In terms of his 2023 outlook, I've kind of already started my projections for the Bears. They're going to throw the ball more. They've kind of made a commitment to improving the passing game. They know that they can't sustain this rushing attack. I know that they're still going to want to, and he's still going to be involved on the ground. But when you look at like fantasy performance, you're hoping that he does take that next step as a passer with a guy like DJ Moore, with Chase Claypool, another year in the offense.
Yeah.
I think you're going to see an improvement in the passing game that kind of negates some of the rushing that he won't get. I think the touchdowns are still going to be there. A lot of the times, Justin Fields gets grouped into this Jalen Hurts conversation as guys that took a year 3 leap. I think in an ideal world, Justin Fields can do that because Justin Fields has a better arm than Jalen Hurts did. And there are situations where I think Justin Fields is going to still be able to just punch the ball in and get a lot of rushing touchdowns. So I think you're looking at a high value fantasy asset with Justin Fields.
Yeah. I think the thing that needs to be noted about Fields is I think people thought he was going to be very bad, and they had this narrative about him. And then when he started the year off and he was a very good fantasy quarterback, I think people now are nitpicking and looking for ways to kind of shit on him, to be honest. Like I think that there are Christian mentioned about his his ability to throw the ball. I think that he did struggle a little bit at times last year, but he didn't have anybody to throw to. Like when we started the season, do you remember all the the Bears did him dirty, they didn't add any weapons, and then all of a sudden now it's Fields' fault at the end of the year because he's
Right.
trying to do it. Like I really feel like, and I've never been a huge, like Christian knows, Fields was my quarterback 3. I had Trey at 2 and I had Lawrence at 1. And we actually argued the first time me and Christian ever talked really was on the Fields Lawrence thing before we were even friends. And so I've never been a Fields apologist, but I really feel like the narrative has been baked in because of people's misconceptions about him as a fantasy quarterback and as a quarterback. And then they doubled down on that. And then we're seeing it this offseason. We're seeing the same narratives because, they got to nitpick at something because they don't want to be wrong. So I think that's where you have with the Fields discourse. And that's coming from a non-Fields apologist. I'm just an analyst looking at both these guys, just like Christian is. Now with Lawrence, when you look at what he's going over, obviously the depth chart, I thought they did a pretty good job of shoring up their offensive line. I believe the tackle that they got was that Cam Robinson? He's suspended though, right? Someone's suspended for a little while.
Yeah. So it was Cam that got suspended, and I don't know if they ever put a game total on that. Did they?
I thought it was 8, but I don't know for sure off the top of my head. I think he's suspended for at least 8 games or whatever the case may be. I know they got Anton Harris in there. I know they drafted him. So offensive line wise, I think they did fine. I think the big splash for them was they got Calvin Ridley. And really, it's going to come down if Calvin Ridley is that wide receiver 1 that we noticed when, he was with Atlanta, kind of wide receiver 1, like low end, and maybe with Julio there, he definitely had those splits that we like to see. He's coming over here, hasn't played in a year and a half, basically. You have Zay, you have Christian Kirk. Kirk was basically, when you're looking at his Brandon Cooks, essentially just, hey, going to get targets. I thought he had a career year last year. Zay actually came out of his shell a little bit there. And I think Evan Ingram, kind of his development for Lawrence is there. They drafted Brenton Strange, and I think that's a key development because Brenton Strange is athletic, is going to fit that profile and that 12 personnel. Obviously, they have Travis Etienne, but they probably drafted a better pass catcher in Tank Bigsby, if we're being honest. Overall, as a pass catcher, I think Tank grades out higher than Etienne does. And so I think that was actually a good get for them because I think Tank helps out that rushing attack, but I think it also helps out that passing attack as well. And so I think Lawrence has the best weapons that he's had in Peterson's system again for another year. When you're looking at overall what that offensive system looks like, I think Lawrence has a very, very safe floor next year. Like at quarterback 8 already, I'm looking at Lawrence. He already has all the stuff around him, the weapons around him. And I think the question is what is Ridley? If Calvin Ridley can be that guy, then we're talking about him having a legit wide receiver 1 with Kirk being a legitimate 2, Zay Jones sitting in there. I think when you're looking at that offense, you like that a little bit more with Evan Ingram moving forward. But it's weird. I don't necessarily think they have better weapons than the Bears. They're pretty damn close overall. Like when you look at both of their depth charts and their outlook, it's really going to come down to efficiency and how efficient they are. They also got Parker Washington. I don't want the Penn State fans to yell at me on the channel. But yeah, overall, that's what I'm looking at Lawrence. What are you feeling? Any feelings for Lawrence there?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head there. This is clearly the best assortment of weapons. And I think that what they did is they gave themselves the ability to go multiple. If they want to, roll 12 personnel, I think Brenton Strange fits a nice little role for them as a pass catching tight end. If they want to go 21 personnel with 2 running backs on the field, they certainly have that ability now. And so they gave themselves a lot of options, and Doug Peterson is just a fantastic offensive mind. There is no, without Doug Peterson, I think Trevor Lawrence's career path looks a little different. I think if Urban Meyer stays there, and so, I think you're hitting the nail on the head. His floor is very, very safe because, even when he struggles, I think he could add, 50 yards on the ground some weeks. And then you're looking at a bottom half of the top 12 type of guy probably.
Yeah. So this is where the debate comes down: floor or ceiling, and where you're going to grab these guys. I have a feeling I know where Christian's going to go, but we got to ask anyway. Christian, where are you drafting?
Yeah. So Justin Fields, I will say, I think when I was making, I've always had Justin Fields as my QB1. I wrote articles about it. I wrote articles about why Trevor Lawrence might struggle early in his career, and then he did. But when I got wrapped up in that, it was very easy to then nitpick Lawrence. These are 2 fantastic quarterbacks, and these are 2 fantastic fantasy quarterbacks. I personally lean the guy that I know can run for 1,000 yards. He's one of the most prolific runners the NFL has ever seen.
Yes.
Now, do I think that that's necessarily going to be what he does moving forward? No, because I don't think he likes doing it. I think he wants to be a great passer, but I have faith that he's going to take those next steps. If you are sitting there and you have to, and Fields goes the pick before you, I'm completely comfortable taking Lawrence as my QB1. I just would absolutely lean Justin Fields if I had the choice between the 2.
Both these guys are in tier 3, in my opinion. And the one kid that could maybe get into tier 2 is Fields because of his rushing upside. That's kind of how I look at this discussion. I think Lawrence is there too. Like he's right around there. But I think the thing that separates Lawrence from like Herbert or Burrow, maybe not Herbert now, but again, the weapons might be a little bit better for Herbert if they stay healthy. Burrow has elite weapons. Hurts has that rushing upside. Josh Allen has that upside there. And Patrick Mahomes, he's just different. Patrick Mahomes is different there. So when you're looking at that, I got to stay true to my dynasty rankings. And right now I have Fields at 6 and Lawrence at 7. So it's close. It's razor thin. But if I'm sitting on the clock, I'm going to take Fields in that rushing upside because I believe that he can develop as a passer. I think they built around him, and I think they want him to be the guy. And I think that is kind of where I look at with Chicago. I know Lawrence is right there too. And like you said, if you're on the board and Fields goes and you sit there with Lawrence, you're excited about that too. Because I think with him, Fields and Lamar, those are that tier. You're pretty comfortable with any one of those 3. Like those 3 guys, you're going to smash there. But for sake of this content, the sake of the video, I'm going to take Fields. I think the rushing upside is there. And again, remember, this is from a perspective of someone who had Lawrence at 1 when he came out. I just think that you have to look at that Konami code quarterback, that system, what he's in, what they're building around him. I think, when you look at Hurts, you have to look at what he's done on the field and look at Fields as well. And I think that that's where his upside's at.
Yeah. And once again, 2 very good quarterbacks that I think are going to be in the league, and we're going to be talking about as fantasy assets for a very long time.
Yeah, let us know in the comments. What do you guys think? Who would you draft? Would you take Lawrence or Fields? How does that look? Or Lamar? We have Lamar in there now as well. New system, everything that's looking there. And where would you take these guys if you're on the clock? Let us know and let's argue about it, or in a nice way here on YouTube, because you guys are nicer than other social media platforms. So we appreciate you guys. Hit that like and subscribe button before you get out of here. We'll check you guys next time.